I've got 7 o'clock straight up. At this time, I'll call our official council meeting to order. Ms. Ray, would you please call the roll of the city council?
Yes, sir. The Honorable Mayor Mario Avery.
Present.
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Linda J. Davis. Present. The Honorable Pat Palland.
Present.
The Honorable Alex Heath.
Absent.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
The Honorable James Whitmore.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, would Pastor Boone, is he here? Would you please come up, sir? Would everyone please stand as we do the invocation?
Let's pray. Father, we come before you, and we thank you so very much for this beautiful city that you've given us, Fairburn. We ask that you be with these officials tonight, those you've chosen to lead this fair city. Grant them wisdom, grant them knowledge, grant them understanding and spirit of cooperation. We pray for the citizens of Fairburn, that you would cover them and keep them and grow them. We ask tonight, Father, that you would also protect those who serve this city, not just them personally, but their families as well. These things we pray in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I don't have any presentations or proclamations. At this time, I'd like to adopt the city council agenda. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure I put it. I'd like to get a motion to adopt the city council agenda and add item number 7, mayor council salary discussion only. Is there a motion?
So move.
There's second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. You have before you the approval of the city council meeting, a special call minutes that commenced on August the 2nd, 2022. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. There's second.
Second.
Any corrections or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. You have before you the regular city council minutes, meeting minutes that commenced on August the 8th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we'll have public comment. 30 minutes will be available for public comment. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. However, a speaker may transfer his or her 3 minutes to another speaker, but no speaker shall be permitted to speak for more than 6 minutes. Further, in the event if more than 10 speakers desire to speak, each speaker should be limited then to 2 minutes, and no more may speak more than 4 minutes. Issues raised at this time are generally referred to the city administrator's office for review, and responses will be provided at a later date. At this time, Ms. Ray, how many people we have speaking for public comment? You have no public comment, so at this time, they'll all speak during the public hearing. Okay, at this time, have no public comment. At this time, we'll have the public hearing and the agenda item. I would ask, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. At this time, I'll ask the department or the city administrator to please come forward, the consultant in this case, would you please come forward and explain what's before us?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. And
Good
members.
evening.
Thank you. So, here tonight to present to you an application for consideration of rezoning and a series of special use permits, as well as accompanying concurrent variance requests. The application case number is 2021-103, and the concurrent use permits are 2021-113 and 2021-114, and concurrent variances 2021-110 and 2021-111. This case has some considerable history, and so what I'm going to do is review the details of that chronology and then outline the details of the development for you to get everyone on the same page as far as information is concerned. So this property was annexed and rezoned originally in October 2006, and it was rezoned at that time from CUP. It's a community unit plan for the existing, that's the portion that exists today as the Asbury Park development. That was zoned CUP in unincorporated Fulton County. And then the portion under review tonight was originally zoned AG and was rezoned to PD district at the time. That's Planned Development District. Planned Development Districts, as enabled in the zoning ordinance, consider development standards that are different than what is outlined in the code for some of the base zoning districts. It usually affords special considerations for innovative development that's not considered as a part of the zoning ordinance. And as a part of that, there's a requirement for a development plan to be adopted with that rezoning. A development plan articulates different development standards that are not in the base PD district. And so for the reason of that development plan, all of the development standards are not spelled out in the code. So you have to have that accompanying development plan to be able to fully affect a PD and be able to develop in that manner. So when the applicant approached the city originally last year to do a development on this site, it was revealed that there was not any ability to find a development plan that was adopted during that original rezoning process back in 2006. And so effectively, they weren't able to move forward because there were no development standards to be able to apply to the development itself. So the solution that was identified was that a rezoning was required, and the reason for that is the rezoning is from PD to PD, so the request is not to change the zoning district, but rather to change the conditions and the particulars of the ordinance that was adopted to include a development plan as part of that rezoning request. And then, of course, based on the particulars of this case, there's the accompanying variances and use permits with it. So they proceeded through the process. In July 2021, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and then in August 2021, this body denied the request. And since then, the applicant appealed to Superior Court, and a judgment was received and a directive that the request be remanded back to City Council for consideration with all of the accompanying requests as well. And more recently, Mayor and Council approved a settlement agreement outlining all the conditions that we will eventually reference in the staff recommendation. And that articulates things that even above and beyond what's identified in the development plan, as well as, for instance, prohibited uses, various architectural requirements for garages. So those are all articulated within the conditions of that settlement agreement, and they are recommended to be adopted and incorporated as a function of the rezoning decision tonight. So now turning to the details of the development, this development, again, is the request itself is to rezone from PD to PD, so keeping it that same zoning district. And the parcel is approximately 70.17 acres, and the request is to accommodate a mixed-use development. So the question before you tonight is not necessarily what is PD an appropriate district, since that is already what the project is zoned, but rather whether or not to incorporate this plan as a function of that to be able to grant them that right to develop as they are already approved. So the request is, from a land use standpoint, incorporates 114 single-family residential units and 126 townhome units. Commercial development on the corner of Ohannon and for a maximum of 24,000 square feet for that commercial, and a convalescent center and nursing home with a maximum of 2,500 square feet, and a home hospice, and a personal care home and assisted living at 10,000 square feet, as identified on that plan. Again, the two use requests are encompass the special use for a hospice facility, and then the second one for a personal care home, assisted living facility that are not uses allowed by right in the planned development district. So those are additional requests that they've made. And then two variances to allow parking in the front yard setback for the personal care home use, and then to reduce the side yard setback from 50 feet to 25 feet, again, for that personal care home use that exists over on the far eastern portion of the property. So as for development details, they've proposed the development to be constructed based on the development plans that are attached to your staff report. Access is provided along Seneca Road to the west and Bohannon Road to the north. Those are the two access points for the residential, and then there are proposed curb cuts for both the institutional and commercial uses. The small neighborhood commercial component is on the corner with the townhome lots on the western portion, just adjacent to the Asbury Park, that original CUP that was a part of the original zoning in 2006. And then with single-family residential uses being to the east of that, and on the far eastern side would be the personal care home, that combination institutional use. There are several locations of environmentally sensitive land identified on the property, and so those regulatory requirements for buffers and things are provided for on the plans. And they've also proposed a series of amenities, pools, parks, dog parks on the site plan as well. So the request is subject to internal staff review, and the comments from that are provided in your staff report. And staff identified various things that are going to have to be verified through the permitting process, whether or not they meet, and some of those things are require installation of curb and gutter, decel lanes, require buffers, and stated availability of water and sewer. So for the analysis component of the staff report, staff compared this request against the review and approval criteria for, first I'll review the rezoning and use permit analysis, and generated, and we're recommending approval based on the criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance. PDs require a minimum of 3 uses, and those uses could entail commercial, residential, multifamily, office, institutional, or conservation. And by nature of offering all of the uses that I've outlined, this development does meet that minimum requirement of 3 uses, which is a requirement to be able to conform to the zoning ordinance. PD is bordered to the west, with that Asbury Square development, AG to the north and east, and unincorporated Fayette County to the south. When this was originally before you, the future land use map designated green space as the character area, and since then Plan 2040 has been updated and redesignated this parcel to rural residential. And while this development, it avoids those environmentally sensitive properties that I talked about and offers green space as an amenity to the property, the requirements of the PD district actually require those multiple mixed uses by function of being able to enable the PD district. So what is envisioned, what is proposed extends beyond that by nature of the requirements of the planned development district they are meeting. So the variances, the review criteria related to the variances are found in 80-287. For the parking in the front yard and side yard, again, it's for the personal care home and assisted living use. There are 2 parking spaces that encroach into the required 30-foot setback. And the property is encumbered in that area by various environmental requirements, stream and wetlands. And so the development shifts to be able to accommodate that and respect those requirements. And likewise, the reduction in the side yard setback from 50 feet down to 25 feet is a result of the building being shifted away from those environmental features so that those can be adequately protected. And so staff found that that requirement has been met in that set of criteria. And then in the case of the side yard setback being reduced, the applicant has also proposed to provide enhanced vegetative buffers and berms and various landscape plantings to attenuate the impacts of that development and its proximity. So staff recommends approval of all the requests outlined in the staff report, and we provided the following recommended condition. C. Bartow Properties LLC and DRB Georgia LLC, the City of Fairburn, Georgia, and Tarika Peaks, Director of Planning and Zoning, in her official capacity, civil action file number 2021 CB 354860, general mutual release settlement agreement dated June 13th, 2022, attached and incorporated hereto as Exhibit A to this staff report. Thank you. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be available for questions.
Okay, before I go to open the public hearing, we'll ask our city attorney, which is zoning attorney in this case, would you please, you got anything you need to add as relates to what makes this different than the standard planning and zoning recommendation that's coming before this body?
Sure, I think the speaker outlined really well.
Hold on for a minute. Can you speak it to the mic so that people can hear it?
This is back before this body for purposes of a court remand. This case was involved in litigation in Fulton County Superior Court before Judge Robert McBurney, and the parties entered into a settlement agreement that allowed for the resolution of the case. As a result of that settlement agreement, the court, Judge McBurney, remanded this back to council and directed council to rezone the property to PD, which is also the existing zoning, but to also adopt the development plan that is before this council tonight. The purpose of that is simply to attach that development plan to the PD zoning, which was not done back in 2006. So you're not looking at a different rezoning request to a different zoning classification on the property. The property owner has the legal right to develop the property as zoned, which is PD, which has been on the property. The issue in this litigation was this development plan. And by virtue of the settlement agreement, the city, which was a party to this litigation, as well as the property owner, were able to come to agreement on specific zoning conditions, which helped resolve the matter. And so that is why this is before you. The court has directed this council to rezone and approve the development plan tonight.
Okay, thank you. What I'll do at this point, I've already opened the public hearing, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna first hear from those members that are in support. Let me make a suggestion before we start speaking. If there's, based on the number of speakers, for or against cannot exceed 30 minutes each. What I would recommend, and it's totally up to you, if especially those people that are in opposition, if you have key people that people that can speak and I guess cover the entire data or cover the whole area what your position is about, that way you don't end up literally repeating the same thing in every point of your opposition or support in this case as well will be heard. So what we'll start with in this case, I'll start with the people that want to come and speak in support of the item. Then we'll go into opposition. If I'm correct, Ms. City Attorney, is it not the policy authorizes the supporter to come back and rebuttal? And what is I apologize. That's a 5-minute rebuttal. So that's the law. And so we'll start again with the people that are in support. Anyone wants to come up and speak that are here to speak in support of the project.
Good evening. I'm going to take off my mask if that's okay.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name's Alex Brock with Smith Gambrell Russell. My office address is 1105 West Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 30309. And I am here tonight on behalf of the applicant, DRB Group, for its rezoning request. With me tonight, I have L.O.S.T, the owner of the subject property. And as city staff and the city attorney noted, that we are here before this body tonight on a remand of or pursuant to a consent order from the court, asking this body to issue approval of the rezoning concurrent use permits, concurrent variances, and development plan in accordance with that court's consent order. This leaves little leeway for the city council to act on its matter, so I'll keep my presentation fairly brief, particularly since staff did a fairly thorough job of outlining the history of the matter and how we got to this point where we are today. But there are a few important facts that I'd like to reiterate that I think it's important to note. One is that in 2021, when DRB Group came before the city to seek approval for its development, it was told by city staff that it had to resubmit for a rezoning application in order to attach a development plan to the zoning. This, as staff mentioned, this property was zoned in 2006 to PD without a development plan. This application merely seeks to address and correct this misstep that occurred back in 2006. It does not seek a new zoning district. It is seeking to submit a development plan that is congrusive to what is allowed under the PD district. And it received support from staff as well as recommendation and approval from Planning Commission in 2021. However, at its August 23rd, 2021 meeting, the City Council voted to deny. So the application then became the subject of a lawsuit for that denial. And what you have before you tonight is the finalization of that lawsuit. There was a settlement agreement that was entered into between the parties, between the property owner, the developer, as well as the city, with certain agreements to the development plan, certain conditions of the zoning, which DRB Group and the owner are agreeable to. It's also important to note that the development plan that is before this body tonight is not the exact same one that was before this body in 2021. There have been some improvements made to the development plan, notably a reduction in the number of units. The 2021 plan had a total of 248 units. Included in that were 99 single-family detached and 149 townhomes. The plan that's before you tonight reduces that to 240 total units, 114 single-family detached, with a reduction in the townhomes to 126 total units, as well as a number of other improvements, including 2-car garages. I would also like to note that in 2021, the applicants submitted a number of letters of approval, letters of support from surrounding neighbors. There were approximately 12 letters of support for this application. We've asked some of those same individuals to come here tonight, but unfortunately they had work commitments and were not able to attend. They requested to attend by Zoom, but we understand that's no longer an option for these meetings. I do have copies of those letters that I would like to, I'd like to show to the City Council if necessary, but they should be part of the record that is part of your packet tonight. And one final note before I rest, I would like to remind the City Clerk and City Council that any speakers tonight, including any in opposition, should state their full address, including city and county, so that everyone is aware of the speakers. And with that, I'll rest and reserve any remaining time for rebuttal if needed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. At this time, I want to just adjust my clock, 7:25. In this case, we've got 30 minutes, in total 30 minutes to be spoke in opposition. For those wishing to speak in opposition, again, as actually coincidentally stated it, would you please state your name, address, and city and state that you live in? And so at this point, again, I'm assuming you're the first speaker, the lady standing here. Is that what now? in opposition, folk in opposition. Was there other, well, let me stop with, I thought, is there anyone else here that wished to speak in support of that item other than is there anyone else wish to speak in support? Okay, now, at this point now, I'm going to anyone who wants to speak in opposition.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members.
How you doing?
My name is Newton Galloway. I'm an attorney at 406 North Hill Street in Griffin. I've done zoning work in front of Fairburn before, but it was years ago. I represent a number of neighborhood opponents, and I'm going to put opponents in quotes, who live along Line Creek. Pursuant to discussions that we've had today and by agreement of council and the parties, we request that there be an amendment to the consent agreement at page 3, section 6, dealing with amenities, that the amenities to be constructed by the developer will be concluded, construction of which will be concluded by the conclusion of phase 1, or approximately 80 lots, and before the approval of a preliminary plat for phase 2. That does not conflict with anything that is in the consent order. I'll address the consent order very briefly. And it is by agreement of the parties, and as a result of that, the parties that I represent, the people that I represent, are not going to oppose the action of the city to approve the consent order. I do want to address a point with you, however, and this developer and this property owner got a great benefit in 2006 when this property was zoned to PD without a site plan, because that site plan is your ability to regulate. Now, if we could approach, I want to give you a comparison between your zoning ordinance and your future land use map in the comprehensive plan, in your 2040 comprehensive plan. If you don't mind, if my paralegal could approach.
We have 7 up here.
Yes, sir, while he's waiting to turn it out, what I want to make sure doesn't happen, I know you're speaking in opposition, I want to make sure if there's anyone else outside of yourself, that, I don't know if this, I see this lady standing up with a.
And I will not be long.
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to rush you, I just want to make sure that there's any other speakers, I want to make sure that's not part of your group.
What you have is a comparison we did between your current future land use map and your zoning map. If you look at the page that has the zoning map, we selected out that portion. You can see that all of the property around these two PD properties, which were annexed and zoned PD in 2006, are zoned agricultural. And if you will look at the future land use map, you will see that for your plan for 2040, that you propose to keep that property under rural and residential zoning. Concern here is as much precedence as it is this particular development. Because the more development like this occurs, the greater pressure you have on the integrity of your comprehensive plan and the zoning on which people have relied at least since 2006 when it was annexed. We raise that to highlight the importance of that requirement, that you stick with your comp plan going forward. Mr. Brock was exactly right. This property was on PD. That attached development rights to it. Like I say, it was a great benefit. I've never seen a property zone PD that did not have a site plan attached, because that's your zoning regulation.
Correct.
So the neighbors want to please urge you and impress upon you the importance as others come up to stick with the comp plan. I do want to make one comment and point out that on remand from the Superior Court does not have authority to tell you how to zone property. It can tell you if you zone property, and a case can be dismissed. And that is consistent with the consent order, and it is consistent with the settlement agreement Because if you look at the settlement agreement, it provides as follows, and I want to highlight this to you. Should the city exercise its authority to approve the development plan, the court didn't tell you you had to. And if you make a decision to do it, you've complied with the order. If you make a decision to not do it, you're complying with the order. But again, the point we want to make is simply this. We've been able to reach an agreement with the developer governing the amenities, which is a key component to making certain that what is on the site plan gets built and is not ignored as lots are sold and as subsequent development occurs. And then the second point, to urge you to stick with that comp plan going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Well, is there anyone, I'm gonna wait till we make sure we finish. Anyone here else that wish to speak in opposition of this project? Okay. At this time, I'll now close the public hearing. Members of council, you have before your recommendation for mayor and council to... Oh, I apologize. You're right. Come on up, sir. I'm sorry.
I'll keep this brief, I only have a few points to make. But I just wanted to note that we are agreeable with Mr. Galloway's amended condition to construct the amenities during phase one. The second point I'd like to make is that, again, this application seeks to correct a misstep that occurred in 2006, just to attach the development plan. This does not seek a new zoning district. It was already zoned PD. We are vested under those rights to develop under PD. It's just that there happens to be no development plan attached to that zoning district, so we are here to correct that misstep. And the parties, both the city as well as the developer and the property owner, have spent a good portion of the past year coming to the consent agreement that is before you tonight, and the settlement agreement that's before you tonight. The conditions that are laid out in that agreement were thoroughly vetted by all parties, and all parties were in agreement when they signed that settlement agreement. So we ask that you move forward with a approval of the consent agreement and the rezoning as it's presented to you tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Members of council, Ms. Ross, can I just want to make sure I want to do something. I see the motion that's recommended by staff. My question is, should I add the amenity mentioned in this case, that an agreement, or should I read the motion as it is and then have it amended? I just want to make sure we do it correctly.
So it's up to the body. If council wants to approve the settlement agreement as adopted in January 8th, 2022, we have the ability to do that. It sounds as though, and I'm just hearing this, that plaintiffs agreed to an amendment to the settlement agreement with the amenities. If council is also agreeable to that, then that's something that may be needed to be done. My concern is that is not reflective of the settlement agreement that was adopted by the court and by city council in terms of the final consent. But again, if the plaintiff is fine with it, if council is fine with it, then that can be a fine.
What I'll do is I'll make a motion that's stated that recommended by staff, and at this time, any members of council that wants to, in this case, you can make an amendment to the motion to add.
It would be a motion to adopt the settlement agreement with the amendment as proposed by plaintiff.
Okay, I'll bring it to the floor that way. I'll bring it to the floor that way. Members of council, you have before you to reconsider court remanded rezone application and development plan along with 2 concurrent use permits and 2 concurrent variants to allow planned development with with construction of amenities during phase 1. Is there a motion? Yes, ma'am.
And I guess this could be addressed to Attorney Ross. Do we need to have something in writing in reference to this agreement?
Yes, I think we can go ahead, we can do that tonight. So if the term of the amendment is favorable to council, then we can write it out. And it'll also be reflected obviously in the minutes as well.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Also to Ms. Ross, The agreement that both parties agreed to and signed off by the judge, okay, if we add anything additional, does it still have to go back to the judge as amended?
No, because if it reflects the consent between the parties, counsel and the plaintiff, then we can just add it into the document.
Okay.
Again, I just have a little reservation for that because it is not part of the original agreement that was negotiated between the parties. But it does not preclude you all from exercising your discretion tonight if you choose to do so and add that as a part of the.
Can I defer back to this young lady here?
Excuse me, I just wanted to offer a potential alternative, so give me your feedback on this. The settlement agreement, because it's already been signed off on, is kind of a closed matter. I wanted to suggest the possibility of just adding a second condition with the first condition referencing that settlement agreement, a second condition that is citing this added language of the phase 1 and phase 2, so you're not having to reopen the settlement agreement as a possibility.
Second condition, okay. And what I'm gonna do, let me restate the motion.
But one question, Mayor,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
before you do that. In this case, and now I'm looking at City Attorney Valerie Ross and both attorneys for the people and for the applicant, there can be an agreement drew up by the two parties and adhered to without us doing anything different from what has already been approved. So it would be prudent upon this body to stick to what has gone through the process and then allow the two attorneys to draw up whatever agreement they want to come up with and file it
For approval tonight.
for approval tonight.
To be part of the motion, because this is before the body tonight, per the consent order. So if you want to add that condition, and I think this speaker's way is cleaner, then we can do that, but it needs to be done part of the motion tonight.
And I'd rather do it that way because in this case, I'd rather go with the person with pen for direction. So in this case, I'm gonna restate the motion for mayor and council to reconsider, no offense, Mr. Whitmore, just,
No.
for mayor and council to reconsider court remanded rezoning application and development plan along with 2 concurrent use permits and 2 concurrent variants to allow a planned development with a second condition that is construct amenities during phase 1. Is that accurate? I'm speaking to you, ma'am. Oh, okay. Is there a motion? I just read the motion. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Whitmore, is there a second? Second. A second. This motion has been made in second. Any comments by council? Go ahead, Mr. Whitmore, then Ms. Davis.
Yes. I would just like to speak to the misstep back in 2006. It just caused this unusual situation. And it is. And it has really caused.
Can you start over, because I don't think
Okay.
I called you.
I would just like to speak to the misstep that happened back in 2006 as it relates to this being annexed into our city and rezoned as PD without the development plan, which has caused a lot of issues and a lot of concerns. And one of the major concerns it has caused today is that it goes against our comp plan. And to you, Attorney Galloway, we are very serious about our comp plan and our future land use map. We have denied a lot of developments that did not match that. So this misstep in 2006 happened. I mean, I wasn't here. A lot of our council members were not here. So there's nothing we can do about that. But that should not be in judgment in how we deal with developers and how important our comp plan is for us. We put a lot of energy into that comp plan. We have citizens participating in that comp plan. We have council members on top of that. So it's a serious document that we look at and we are guided by that comp plan and the future land use map. So I wanted to be very clear about that. And I know this situation has caused a lot of issues and concerns with our citizens. We hear you, we appreciate you giving us the information and talking to us about your concerns. You know, this is an anomaly. And I just hope you understand what is going on and why it had to move the way it did. But one thing I'm very proud of is that we denied it originally. And when we did deny it, it gave us an opportunity to add some conditions and negotiate some things that were not in it prior to. So I kind of consider that a win as it relates to our citizens in that community. So I just wanted to speak to that because it really disturbs me. I take very, very serious situations when it comes to developments and it's going against our comp plan and our future land map use. So Attorney Galloway, you don't have to talk to us about that. We are on it. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, is there any other? Is there any other member of council? I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, my colleague took a lot of my comments, but that's okay. But I will also say that we looked at all the emails that came in. Each of us, I'm sure, read them all. And we also looked at what we can do by law in accordance with what we currently have in our books here in the city of Fairburn. We have an outstanding staff here in the city of Fairburn. So, Mr. Galloway, you can't hold 2006 against this current council and mayor, all right? Because our staff is top-notch, and you're not gonna find a staff anywhere in Georgia that's gonna be as good as our staff. Because of our tagline, we are situated to succeed. In light of that, I'd like to mention a couple of other things. Our citizens have put a great mandate on this body where they are looking for certain things here in the city of Fairburn. One is a white tablecloth sit-down restaurant. Two, another supermarket. Now, what the naysayers have been talking about for some time now is that we don't have enough rooftops. I dispute that. We have a lot of growth that's going on in the city of Fairburn and surrounding areas. We have the rooftops. We're going to get additional rooftops. It's imperative that we always keep in mind what our citizens asked us to look for. And this body, this administration, and the staff have been working tirelessly to achieve some of those goals. I just ask you just to be patient. We are going to get there. There's no doubt we're going to get there. This is just another part of the puzzle that's being addressed and fixed so that we can have that count to go up and we can do the things that we want to do. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the applicant for some additional concessions. One of the major concerns that we had was, number one, with the townhouses and the single-family houses not having two-car garages. Well, guess what? We understand that usually in today's society, you're going to have more than 2, 3, and sometimes 4 cars. So at least that part was taken care of, as well as this body is very proactive to ensure that we have people that are coming into our communities that are purchasing the homes. We know that there will be some rentals, but that is minimized based on things that we put in conditions. So this body is very proactive at that, and we will continue to work to ensure that as communities are built, They will be maintained, and they will be what we look forward to seeing in the city of Fairburn. And there are some other considerations that are in the conditions, and I don't have to go over all of them, but I just want to thank the developer for doing all the things that they have done in communicating also with our city attorney, working together to find a solution. That solution is found here tonight. I voted for it last year in August, and I voted for it this year. I am in support of it because the South is landlocked, or rather the North is landlocked. This is our opportunity to grow responsibly in the city of Fairburn because we are situated to succeed. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments by council?
Yes, Mayor. I just want to make one comment, a couple comments, actually. Back in April, late April, early May, this body had a retreat where we talked about our vision for economic development for the city. And we talked about it in light of the fact that we are landlocked. There is no more unincorporated Fulton County now. Every piece of land on the south side and the north side is in the jurisdiction of some city. So yes, we still have land in Fairburn, but we have to be very smart about how we develop that land. And we talked about that in light of our comp plan. And as Councilwoman Davis stated, and as we have repeated so often, is that we do take our comp plan very serious. And we are guided by that in the discussions that we have regarding development. So this speaks to the issue of the misstep of 2006 and other potential missteps out there that we don't know about. In one of the discussions we had at the retreat, and I brought it up again last week during our budget hearing, is that we really do need an inventory of all the vacant land that is available here in the city of Fairburn. I personally, as a member of this body, is calling on all landowners to reach out to the city to let us know about the land you own and have conversations with us about that land. Calling on you as landowners, coupled with the fact that the city embark on that same project to identify all of that land, so that we know whether we have any future missteps that may have occurred in the past that will come back to haunt us. This is now our opportunity to correct that. And I'm employing both the landowners and the city of Fairburn to identify all of those vacant lands so that we can have a conversation about the vision for this city. I want to thank the attorneys for showing the issues with the zoning and the comprehensive plan. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of the residents who raised your issues and concerns. We did hear you, but Fairburn is growing. And we have lots of development knocking on our door. But it's our challenge, and it's with your assistance that we be smart about that development. So continue to reach out to us, continue to engage and communicate with us about those. And I appreciate it, so thank you.
Right. Any other member of council? Only thing I'll say again, I just want to thank the two attorneys in this case. Not too many times you come to a zoning issue like this, and the two attorneys have actually had a come to Jesus conversation apparently. And so I want to personally thank you for that. And so also as the level of professionalism, obviously that was exemplified, I guess, apparently within your negotiation. So again, without going back, well, Ms. Jones pointed out a very important part. that because of where this project is located, a retreat did happen by the mayor and council and the staff. And so the city has plans for that area that this project is actually going in right in front of Ashbury Park. I was actually over there this weekend looking at it. So again, you can go on our website and look at some of the vision we have as relates to under the 3 R's. You may have seen it in South Fulton neighborhood, talked about it a little bit. And so again, I want to thank our staff for a job well done, as well as the members of this body that basically has a foresight to come in agreement of what we're going to do. So with that being said, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is the next item is the proposed 2022 millage rate.
You have to speak in the mic, Ms. Ray.
Is it on,
Let's wait-
Devontae?
Let me, Ms. Ray, let me wait for a second to let these people clear out.
Testing 1, 2. Yep. Testing 1.
Give it. Okay, we can go ahead and go to the next item.
Okay, the second public hearing is to discuss the proposed 2022 millage rate.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, I bring to you the proposed millage rate for 2022. Our current millage rate is 8.1 mills. It has not changed for over 10 years, and as of right now, it's going to stay steady. We also have a 1.46 millage for our bond rate, so for a total of 9.56. I yield my time for any questions.
Okay, in this case, I have to actually have a public hearing, am I correct? Open the
This
public.
is for a public hearing, yes.
Yes. In this case, I will now open a public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in support or opposition of the millage rate? Seeing none? That's why I waited till everybody left. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Give me 1 second. Members of council, you have before you for the city of Fairburn, 1 second, make sure. You have before you for the city of Fairburn to adopt his millage rate of,
It needs to be adopted on September 12th council meeting.
okay, I can wait, so, okay, all I had to have was a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. We'll adopt it at a later date, okay? Next item.
The next item is the public hearing for the proposed FY 22-23 budget.
Okay, I'm now gonna open the public hearing for any comments about the budget by residents. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Again, this item will be adopted at the September the 12th meeting. Next item.
Next item, Mayor, is a resolution granting special counsel authority to enter into a joint defense agreement with the City of Atlanta and the City of Sandy Springs to file legal actions on the city's behalf as necessary to accomplish the purpose of securing a distribution of L.O.S.T and for other purposes.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you for mayor and council to approve the resolution granting special counsel authority to enter into a joint defense agreement with the City of Atlanta and the City of Sandy Springs and to file legal actions on the city's behalf as necessary to accomplish the purpose of securing distribution of L.O.S.T and other purposes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Palin, second by Ms. Davis. Any questions or comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
The next item is to purchase a fire pumper tanker for the fire department.
Go ahead, Chief. Good evening.
All right, good evening again. The fire department is coming before you to approve the purchase of one pumper tanker for the fire department. This unit will aid us in firefighting operations, major water supply response in the southwestern area of the city. In years' history, we've had structure fires out in the southwest part of town where we had limited water, which required us to tie up 3 to 4 engines. But this pumper tanker will alleviate a lot of that because of the 2,000-gallon size tank that's on this pumper. This pumper will also aid us whenever we have water main breaks within the city. If you all, of course you all are familiar, we get our water from the city of Atlanta, which feeds down Butner Road, comes down this way. So whenever there's a major water main break, if they don't get the repaired in a timely manner, the city gets low on water. And believe it or not, one structure fire will put a dent in our water resources for the city. So we're asking for you guys to approve this pumper. This pumper tanker will also aid us in ISO, give us points for being a reserve because it also has the capabilities of fighting fire. And it'll give us a cost savings. Also give us a cost savings of about $500,000. Fire department is requesting approval for this purchase of this unit not to exceed $249,000. First payment of $130,000 in the FY22 budget and $119,000 in FY23 budget.
Members of council, you have before you for mayor and council to approve the purchase of a 2005 International pumper tanker not to exceed $249,000 with the first permit of $130,000 fiscal year 2022 and $119,000 fiscal year 2023. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion's made by Mr. Whitmore, second by Ms. Davis. Any questions or comments by council?
Just a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
Chief, just want to, number one, thank you for even bringing this before mayor and council. I know that you've been looking at various ways to alleviate any possible future delays in fighting fires. So it's just a testament to you. I also did make a phone call to inquire about a couple of things, and I got the answer, but just for the sake of the record, I understand that this particular international pumper tanker was used with a volunteer fire company, and it only has 14,000 miles on it. So it got very little use, even though it's a 2005 vehicle. So, and I also understand it's being rehabbed or refurbished as we speak. So when we get it, it's going to have the right hoses on it, and we don't have.
Can you, if you, go ahead.
2022 upgrade, so it's going to provide years and years of service for us. And as you forestated during your presentation, if it's needed to put into service, it will help to keep our backup fire trucks ready to go on to something else. So I just wanted to commend you on researching, finding this, and bringing it to the city of Fairburn. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comment of council?
Just one question. You mentioned $500+ in savings. Are those savings derived?
Because it's a 2005, we're getting the truck for $249,000. The brand new will run us close to $650,000 to $700,000.
Fantastic. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Pat, you got a question? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Agenda item number 6 is the Downtown Façade Improvement Grant by Economic Development.
Go ahead, Ms. Abernathy.
On August 8th, thank you, during the work session, the Façade grant, during which time we received feedback from mayor and council regarding adding consideration for applicants who could not afford the initial payment for the Façade grant. Since that time, the Façade grant has been updated with a special consideration. So for those who have needs, their need will be assessed, and a separate application will be taken and overseen by our procurement office. I do want to pause and ask Attorney Noel, was there any additional statements?
Because of the source of the funds for the grant program, we wanted to ensure that there were no restrictions on our ability to use those funds and not have a match. And I've reviewed the regulations related to the ARPA funds, and we're not required to have a match.
Great.
So that concludes, and we are asking for mayor and city council to approve the Façade grant with the additional consideration.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you for mayor and council to approve of the funding to facilitate the implementation of downtown facade improvement grant. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smallwood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any questions by council?
Just a comment, Mayor. Yes, Ms. Abernathy, thank you so much for reevaluating that request. I think that for financial assistance for those businesses who may have a hardship. I think this speaks to additional support that we're providing for our small businesses and directly addresses the whole purpose of the ARPA funds. So thank you so much
Yes,
for doing that research and having conversation with our city attorney. And it's great news, Attorney Noel, that there will be no matching required. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Whitmore?
Thank you, Mayor. I noticed your timeline schedule that you produced, and I was happy to see that. Also, I'm under the impression that $50,000 is not a lot of money, so this is just a baseline, and probably doing mid-year review, we'll probably be asking the city administrator for some more.
My apologies, we were given it.
We don't want to put the cart too far ahead of the horse, but that is certainly a distinct possibility.
Because when you look at our downtown area, the facade, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of applications to try to get this to move forward to work on our downtown area. So again, I'd like to concur with my colleague and just say thank you for all that you have done and what you're doing.
Yes, sir, and please excuse the laughter. The $50,000 is the pilot, and we wanted to start off with a significant amount so that we could spread it around to as many as possible. So thank you, Councilman.
Mayor, just one other comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, if at all possible, try to maximize the use of the dollars by negotiating quantity, pricing, wherever that might be applicable, or having the projects done at the same time. However way we can maximize the dollars. Fantastic. Thank
Any
you.
other comment by members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Council.
That motion carries. Item number 7, hold up, sir. And that we have item number 7 we added for mayor and council, a discussion item only as relates to the salary increase. I guess in this case, a recommendation has been made. Members of council has agreed that a recommendation for increase of salary. What the discussion basically in this case ranges from what will be the percentage of increase that will, in this case, it will not impact this year's fiscal budget. If anything is approved, it will go in effect until 2024, at which time also there's a requirement for it to be advertised 3 consecutive weeks in our legal organ, which will be done upon commencement of an agreement of the percentage of increase by council. At this point, give me 1 second. I've got it right here. At this point, there's a consideration in this case where there was a salary. Instead of going through all the legal guidance, again, the recommendation in this case was making sure that you can see City Ordinance 98-20, Section 7A, adopted in 1998 based on state law. Again, I just mentioned that the required advertisement that must be done. Any proposed increase in compensation cannot take effect again until after the next election. In this case, it would actually be in January 2024. And that's in accordance with the Georgia Code 36-35, Section 4A1- Section 3. And so I'll start with.
I have questions in reference to.
Yes, ma'am.
The legal guidance. I've tried, Mr. Phillips, I've tried to find the city ordinance, this 98-20. I have volume 1 and volume 2 of the ordinances for the city of Fairburn, and I was not able to locate that section A, and could be that, I just didn't look in the right place. So can I have a copy of that? Is there any way I could get a copy of that?
Certainly, we'd be more than happy to provide that just for clarity. The deputy city attorney and city attorney reviewed, that's where we generated that legal guidance from. And so we can certainly go and print out a copy of that for you.
Yeah.
But yes, we can certainly provide that and find that particular section of the ordinance and make sure we provide a copy to you.
Yeah, in fact, I would like to have a copy of this whole legal guidance here, all 3. I looked under the state, for the state, the OCGA. I found 3635-4. I didn't see a A1 or 3 that really addressed what we have here. So for my records, I would like to have all copies of all 3 of these legal guidance statements.
Certainly.
Thank you.
The member of council, what's before you, just so that we don't prolong it, what's before you is that in this case, you had 4 recommended increase, a 20%, 50%, 75%, 100%. In conjunction with the, just so for the public's understanding, in conjunction with our class income study, our goal in this case was to bring our entire government in commensurate with the standard market practice. In this case, that actually includes your legislative body. So just for those that wonder how this even come up. So now our task tonight is not for a vote, it's actually for future consideration for advertisement purposes. Which option in this case would council rather go with, the 20, 50, 75, or 100? Do I have any member of council want to comment about that? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Considering there has not been an increase, I think I've heard 8 years? Has it been 8 years, 6 years?
8 or 9.
8 or 9 years. There has not been an increase for this legislative body. I would suggest Middle Road 50%, 13,500 would be my suggestion.
Then does any member of council have a comment as it relates to this?
I'll make a comment. Also considering that it hasn't been, 8, 9 years as well. And considering if all of this is accurate, because I would like a copy as well too, by the time we do this, more time would have been elapsed. So I'm proposing the 75%.
Okay. Mr. Whitmore and Mr. Collin and Ms. I'll start. Mr. Whitmore, you have a comment?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Well, actually, as I reviewed it, I was looking at the middle of the road, like my colleague Councilwoman Davis suggested, just to be in keeping with looking at, the population and everything else. So I was looking at the middle of the road as well, sir.
50%.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And because in this case, I only have 5, in this case, a majority of 3 will be the recommendation we'll make. So in this case, I need to hear actually from each councilman. Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to speak about what your recommendation is?
Yes, Mayor. The problem with the jumping from 20 to 50 is that I really think 50 puts the mayor's salary in particular outside of our neighboring cities who are larger than we are, and that salary would be more than our neighbor directly to the north, who has almost 10,000 population greater. So I really think that's unreasonable for a salary request, given our population. And when it comes to the council, that is consistent with the cities that have been brought forth to us. And if I may take a moment to just talk a little bit about my analysis. We were given population of the comparative cities for a reason. And I took the population of each of those cities and I divided the salary of both the mayor and council to really get a per capita rate. I thought that was more of a baseline to use. And in doing that, I think it's more reasonable for mayor's salary to be at $22,346, and at council, I'm okay with the $13,500, even though I had my calculations was slightly higher, but I think the $13,500 is reasonable for our population of 17,189. To go beyond that, I think makes us an outlier, given the size of our population relative to neighboring cities.
Okay, so which option are you choosing?
Well, I'm a counter proposal for the mayor's position, and I don't know what that percentage is. We can calculate that. But the dollar amount would be $22,346. And for council, the dollar amount would be $13,500.
I apologize, I'm looking at,
She's at the 50, but she's counter proposing the 27.
okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Palin, you get an option, you get a vote here, sir?
20%.
Going to 20, okay? And in this case, since I don't have majority, my position actually in this case is actually we totally concurrent with Ms. Davis and Mr. Whitmore, and because of the fact that, and I have to respectfully disagree with you, Ms. Jones, because of the number of hours, this is outside the city of Atlanta, the city of Fairburn is actually the only strong mayor form of government, which means that I spend a considerable number of time. I'm here most mornings at 7:30 in the morning. The staff will tell you almost every morning, every day of the week, because of the meetings and the time that's required to put in to bring in not only the proper leadership as well as making recommendations, as well as making sure that all the members of council's consideration in any activity related to council is actually given not only the fair and equitable, but in this case, making sure that we're compliant as it relates to compliance. And so the hours I spend after hours as well as the hours here, which is a lot. And I'm not, the only reason I bring it up is because, again, I think it's only fair in this case as a strong mayor form of government, the mayor of Atlanta and myself. That's no knock on any other mayor, but in this case, a lot of decisions, a lot of recommendations that has to be made before it's even brought to this body, that has to be vetted before it's brought to this body. as, so that, number one, we won't insult the professionalism of the council with unreasonable expectation. Number two, that questions are 90% of the time are vetted, just like I did with Ms. Ross almost early today, so when I could come to this body with recommendations, in this case, ensure that our council is not only respected, but that we operate in a level of professionalism. So again, my position will be that I'm willing to go with the 50%, with, in this case, remaining with the mayor's salary as is. And so that's my position on that. And so in this case, there's three of us, and again, unfortunately, Mr. Heath could not be here again because of illness. And so my recommendation in this case will be that we will recommend advertise in the paper option 2, which is at the 50% level because the majority of the council. And then what happens, the good part about this is that we actually get to come back to council in an actual public hearing, and we'll actually have to vote on the option despite just in this case tonight was strictly to give us guidance on what we were going to advertise, so that way there's no questions about it again. Unless there's any other questions of council, I'm sorry, I apologize. Is there any other questions or comments as relates to this? In this case, yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Just one other comment, Mayor, and I know we just went through a census count, and we all know that we feel that number that we currently have for the city of Fairburn, we all feel that is higher than that, and we know that even though we did our due diligence in trying to explain what the census would do, I don't think that enough people gravitated to it and did the right thing. Now, we won't have another census count for another 10 years. So, I think that number is higher than what it is as far as our census here in the city of Fairburn. So I just wanted to note that for the record as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other?
I'm in agreement with that. I believe our population is, I'm in agreement with Councilman Whitmore. I believe our population is more than 17,189.
Way more.
Yeah, I think it's kind of close to 20,000, I would say.
Okay, if there's no other questions at that point, we will go with the standard salary listed in the chart at 50% for mayor and council. And it'll be advertised 3 weeks consecutive in a legal order, at which time it will also come back to council September 12th or a later date. Well, I take it, it depends on the way the advertisement falls. And so the following the 3 weeks, whichever 3 weeks we pay, that following meeting, it would have to come back to council. Yes, sir.
Just another question. I don't know if you know it, Mayor, or if the city administrator knows it. When will that study be done for staff?
It will come before council at September 12th.
September 12th. Okay, thank you.
Okay, at that point, that ends our discussion for next item is Finance Director's Monthly Report.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I come before you this evening to provide the City of Fairburn's financial report for the month ending July 31st. The City of Fairburn's general fund concluded its 10th month of 2022 operations with $4.8 million in net cash flow. To date, the general fund has generated $19.7 million in revenues with $14.9 million in general fund expenditures. As of July 31st, 2022, the city has collected 90% of its year-to-date revenues, a 4% increase from last month. To date, the city has expensed 68% of its budget. Out of the $21,924,170 of revenue budgeted, the city has collected $19,721,885. In the month of July, the city has collected $880,760 of revenues. Real property tax represents 41% of revenues, and loss represents 22% of our revenues. As of July 31st, the city's year-to-date expenditures is $14,950,343, which equates to 68% of the budget. The last 4 fiscal years, the city has collected over 97% of its property taxes, and this trend still continues to date. The City of Fairburn's Enterprise Fund concluded its 10th month of 2022 operations with roughly $536,000 in net cash flows. To date, the Enterprise Fund has generated $16.5 million revenues with $16 million in Enterprise Fund expenditures. As of July 31st, the city has collected 81% of its year-to-date revenues, an 8% increase from last month. To date, the city has expensed 78% of its enterprise budget. Our current enterprise fund revenue budget is $20,303,775. Our year-to-date revenues is $16,553,909. In the month of July, the city has collected $1,830,052. 97% of the enterprise fund revenues comes from charges for services. The city's year-to-date expenditures is $16,017,441, which is 78% of the budget. This concludes my financial update for the month of July 2022. I now yield the floor for any questions from council.
Does any member of council have a question for the finance director's report? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for doing such a fantastic job with our finances and collecting our property taxes.
Very well.
And definitely looking forward to that ClearGov.
You now have access, so you're able to go in there now.
Okay. Any other member of council have a question? Okay, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. Next, we'll go to the city administrator's monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to take an opportunity this evening to provide a few highlights. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the city administrator's report that was provided as part of your agenda packet for this evening. I wanted to take, as I mentioned, just a brief moment to highlight a few significant things from the previous month. Our Downtown Development Authority, which is key in our goals to redevelopment downtown, all of our new board members participated in a training through the Carl Vinson Institute of Government in Dublin that was highly valuable and helped to refocus the DDA on its core mission. It's actually a mandatory training that's required for DDAs, and so we were very excited about having our new DDA members, along with some of the previous ones, to participate and get that training through one of the leading governmental training entities in the state, the Carl Vinson Institute, and so that was a significant step in our efforts on downtown. Our Human Resources Department helped in developing a council-approved COVID-19 policy, which provides 5 days of leave for those who contract COVID-19 that are vaccinated. And so that's a significant step and helps employees who are subject to that. We've had a couple of employees, the numbers have been pretty high over the last 60 days, as most of you are probably aware. We've had a number of city employees that have contracted the virus, myself included. But fortunately, it appears, at least with the update we got from the Atlanta Fulton County Emergency Management Association as of Friday of last week, that for the first time in nearly 2 months, it appears that the numbers may begin to trend in a more positive direction. We're not out of the woods yet. We're still in the high red zone in terms of COVID transmissions, but for the first time in a couple of months, the numbers have started to go down. Hopefully that trend will continue. We'll keep you apprised as we get those weekly updates. Benefits, getting to know your benefits was held on July 25th and facilitated by our benefits broker and United Healthcare. We talked a little bit about that when we were going through the budget process, how important it is for employees to understand. There's another session today, getting a little ahead of, but tremendous job in provide that information, and we find out through that dialogue where our gaps are in terms of areas that employees aren't real familiar with, and we discovered some of that today. There'll be some of that information coming forth to you as council members as well.
Right.
We talked about that in our last dialogue, making sure that all of you are aware of what your benefits are as well. Our Wellness Wednesday program for the summer completed. We had over 100 participants for the season. It's another really popular program with residents, particularly some of our seniors. We brought on board last month Rebecca Kiefer and Richard Edwards, named as Interim Director of Planning and Zoning and Interim Senior Planner, respectively. I think you saw the value of having Ms. Kiefer on board this evening. when she came up with a really helpful suggestion in dealing with that zoning issue that came before us earlier. We're fortunate that we were able to put knowledgeable resources in place. We are moving forward, however, with hiring a permanent planning and zoning director. So that is not in lieu of, that is simply to ensure that we have continuity as we go through that process. There's progress being made on that front as well. We are continuing our proactive recruitment and making significant progress on all of our open positions. HR, again, has done a really tremendous job. Our vacancy rate has gone down significantly since Ms. Champagne came on board, and her entire team has done a tremendous job filling positions. I think our department heads will give you that feedback as well. So we're excited about the path forward with that. I am confident that we are putting together a superb management team in the city of Fairburn. We've got a lot of knowledgeable professional folks on our staff. We're going to continue to build that and looking forward to working collaboratively to produce for our citizens and our responsibilities to this council as our leaders here in the city. A couple of other updates that I wanted to provide. We are currently working through some plans to address comp time issues in our fire department. And you'll have a work session that will come to you in the very near future. I just wanted to mention this issue today and put it on your radar. The only department remaining in the city that accrues comp time is the fire department. That's largely because, as you're probably aware, accrual of leave time and scheduling fire is a unique thing. It's completely different than the way scheduling is done in any other department in the city. And so because of that, over the years, they've done a couple of different things to try to create some equity in how they accrue leave time. Unfortunately, the one that they are currently using as a comp time model is largely outdated and really not sustainable budgetarily. Now, with that said, we have to transition to a more reasonable comp time platform, well, not comp time, an accrual platform for leave for fire. We want to do that in advance of our classification and compensation study because the likelihood is that salaries will increase. Now, with compensation, comp time, you understand that that is typically paid out. So if someone takes a job somewhere else, you end up doing what employees call bust-out checks. And that becomes budgetarily not sustainable over time. So we want to make sure, one, that we're treating our firefighters equitably. And there's some other models that we've looked at in fire departments around us that tends to look at those accruals based on years of service to make sure that firefighters accumulate equitably about the same rate of leave time that other employees in 40-hour-a-week, 8-hours-a-day departments do. And so we're looking at that. We'll finalize that coming here shortly. I just wanted to put this in front of you this evening as an issue that we're working on to transition equitably from the outdated model that we're currently using to a more sustainable plan. Our intent would be to pay out the current comp time accruals before the new compensation plans. And so those employees will get paid for that time. And then as we put before council and get an approval from council for the new plan, one of the elements that we'll suggest is to look at possibly front-loading 3 days of leave for firefighters. Let me explain what that means. If we pay them out for their comp time, it essentially zeroes out their comp time, right? But we don't want firefighters having no days that they can take off. So you front-load approximately 3 days of comp time, and this will be coming to you for a vote in the future, so that they would have leave times after the comp accrual is paid out. If they leave the city's employ before they've earned those 3 days of leave time, they wouldn't get paid for it. So we would make it provisional based on that. But we don't want to pay them out for comp time and leave them empty-handed, right? So it's a way to transition from the old plan to the new plan. Again, more information to come. I didn't want to get too far into the weeds, but I didn't want it to be the first time you've heard that when we come back to you in a work session. At the end of the day, we will always make a priority to ensure that we're treating all of our employees and certainly our public safety personnel equitably and fairly, making sure that whatever we propose leaves them whole as we go through this transition. So more to come on that. Lastly, we do have an emergency procurement that will be coming forward quickly. The roof at the police station is in tatters. When it rains over there, there's water. Dan, could you come forward? It's leaking there when it's not raining. That's how bad the roof is. And so we've asked Dana Smith to jump on this as an emergency procurement. I want to give him a moment to tell you where that is because this is something we have to fix today. It's just unacceptable to have a fire station with water draining down into the evidence room that the police department uses.
Say fire police.
Fire police.
I said fire because I was talking about fire before. I meant police. Please forgive me, I misspoke. So that's why I'm going to stop here and let Dana talk to you.
Smart move.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Mr. Phillips mentioned, we knew that the roof at the police headquarters was in rough shape, but I have looked at it personally. I had vendors look at it, and in the short time I've been here, and really this morning when Chief McCartney said that the evidence room was raining on the inside and there was some evidence bags that were getting wet, I jumped immediately to try to get a quick solution. I talked to Ms. Chris and Mr. Phillips about how fast could we effectuate a solution for this, because obviously we don't want to put the police or any evidence in any sort of harm's way or liable to damage or hold the city liable for any sort of mishaps that may come with that. So we have a vendor that we are finalizing some conversations with. We have their pricing, and I report that over to Mr. Phillips in finance. So we will be coming forth probably this week, maybe tomorrow even, with an emergency procurement to allow them to totally replace the roof. So this won't be a smooth over patch job. Yeah. The details will be for them to take off the membrane, the materials, insulation that's on the roof right now, all the way to the metal decking, and put a new system on to give us a 20-year warranty on that material, plus their labor warranty, which should be approximately 2 to 3 years. So with that, we are believing that there should be no more leaking in police from the roof. There are some other assessments that we're doing on the building, as we know that the police headquarters is kind of old, but we will try to fix this problem as soon as possible.
So Mr. Smith has left it to me to tell you how much this is going to cost. He's very smart in that regard. So the rough estimate right now is right around $51,000 to get this roof done, which is a good cost. I've seen roofs far in excess of that.
Much more.
So I was pleased to see that we were at that amount, and that is with the 20-year roof. This is a necessary emergency procurement in advance of our larger effort to put out an RFP to have all of our facilities assessed, as we talked about previously. So that is still going forward. We're going to look at every facility, but there are instances in this case where we needed to act in a timely manner, and so we'll be bringing that forward to you as an emergency procurement so we can solve this issue and not have any further damage to the police evidence room.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the temporary measure? Do we have any covering over it until the vendor comes out?
Well, the good news is that in talking with this vendor today, if we move forward this quickly, they can be on site as quick as the end of the week or beginning of next week. The short answer is we just have to make some temporary measures as plastic and buckets as best we can, because any other temporary measure to the roof would involve a vendor coming out, assessing, trying to tarp, and that would still take a day or two to do that. So by the time that we do that, this other vendor would already be ready to just start the process of the replacement. We did look at that. I did try to track some vendor downs to do that, but when they gave me their timeline, talking to Mr. Phillips and Ms. Chris, realized that we would probably be in the same boat of just getting the whole replacement by this vendor that was in place to do it.
Yeah, we decided against doing a patch job.
Yeah.
If we're going to expend the money, we should do it right. And I want to be real clear, under the city's current procurement policy, as an emergency procurement, we are able to move forward before the next council meeting. That's the intent of emergency procurements. When you have situations that can't wait 2 weeks to be approved, we'll move forward, and then we'll bring it back to spread on the minutes at the next council people with full vetting.
And the actual procurement term in this case, it was actually brought back to council to be ratified.
Exactly.
Simply means already executed under certain special procurement conditions. So in this case, it's called emergency procurement, but it'd be brought back to council to be properly ratified as a contract. Ms. Jones, you still have the floor.
No, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Okay. Is any other member of council have a question? Okay. Seeing none.
That concludes my report.
Okay. I believe, and I apologize, I want to just make sure. Okay, members of closing remarks. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll start with you.
No comments.
Okay.
No comment.
Mr. Smallwood,
I don't have any comments.
Mr. Davis,
No comments.
and Mr. Whitmore.
No comment.
Okay, and I have no comments. Can I entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss, want to make sure,
Litigation.
litigation? Okay, can I get a
Move to go
okay.
into the executive session.
Motion is made by Ms. Davis,
Second.
second by Mr. Whitmore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Looks like this is what I'm on every day. Zoom. Zoom. Share my screen and. Ooh, it's cold.
Can I use the restroom right quick?
Yeah, we'll wait. Okay. Thank you.
Good night. Ooh, I'm so hungry. What's up, man? You good? Hey, man. Have y'all been doing a lot of calls? I hear a lot of. Where I'm at, I'm hearing a lot of with my dogs. They always barking because they hear the sirens. Y'all. Yeah, cause every time, every few minutes, I'm hearing something. My dogs are barking. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, I'm asking, are we getting real busy? Cause I'm hearing it. Man, that ain't. Yeah, that is. It is what it is. Yep. Yeah, that's not accurate. She's equally as aware. I like to hide. Oh, man. Oh. Oh, my gosh. My Lord.
Come back in the session.
Thanks.
I've got 4 of us up here. Members of council,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes, I've got to come back,
Okay.
I've got to come back in
Can
session.
everybody hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you. I've got to
Okay,
come back
great.
in the regular session meeting because I need to make
You
an.
guys, and I apologize.
Mute them. Yeah, okay. I need to come back in the session. I need a motion to come back in the regular session. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, that motion carries. I need to now make a motion to go into executive session to discuss both litigation and a personnel matter. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Davis, second by Mr. Smallwood. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, that motion carries. Now we're going to executive session.